Good morning. At about 7:45 this morning, the Hendersonville Police Department received a phone call from the school that a shot had been fired inside the gymnasium of the school. As the SRO and other officers arrived, they found that the individual involved in the shooting had already been secured. The weapon that had been used was secured. We went from there into first aid mode, providing first aid for the victim. At this point, all students have been removed from the campus. Everybody is in fact safe. That was priority number one, is the safety of the students as well as the staff here at the school. A little bit of update on the investigation. The individual involved in the shooting is currently at the Hendersonville Police Department. He is there with his parents. The victim in the shooting has been transported to Mission Hospital. We have received word from the hospital that she is in stable condition at this time. Do want to thank the administrators and staff here at the school for their quick response. As soon as the incident occurred, they had administrators on the scene very, very quickly in the gym. Again, was able to secure the firearm and the individual involved. Our SRO and about 4 other officers were here within the first minute. And again, we went into, at that point, securing the individual and providing for the safety of students and staff. So, sir.
Thank you, Chief. And I believe that message of gratitude is exactly the one that we want to continue as it relates to the responsiveness of our school staff today, our students, and our local law enforcement partners. A tremendous effort to ensure the immediate safety and security of our school campus on the type of day that you simply do not want to have to prepare for. When it comes to our effort and our responsiveness, our communications to our school community, the immediate focus was making sure that we could respond in a way that ensured every student on our campus was being cared for. And that work was done by our law enforcement partners, our school administrative partners, and our efforts to make sure that our community stay well informed during that period of time. Again, this is the type of day that as a school system we simply do not want to have efforts to have to respond to, but we are proud to say that that's exactly what took place today. That we had a staff that responded immediately, students who responded responsibly and immediately, and law enforcement partners that knew how to immediately support that work. So again, as we look toward Thanksgiving in this period of time, we are so very grateful of that responsiveness today and our parents and our community support for that work. So we'll pause for just a moment, and if there are any questions, we'll be glad to respond.
Can you tell us what kind of weapon was used and what kind of wounds that student suffered from?
At that time, at this point, we're not ready to release the kind of weapon, other than the fact it was a firearm that was used. Again, the investigation is still ongoing with our investigators and with the witnesses here at the school, and we'll release that information as the investigation continues.
And the suspect was a male and the victim was a female?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us their ages and what grade they're in?
Both individuals were 12 years old.
How many
confirm
shots
it was
were-
an intentional shooting and not an accidental?
That's part of the investigation that's ongoing currently, sir.
How many shots were fired and how many students were about in that, I guess, gymnasium at this time?
There was just one shot fired in total. To my understanding, there was approximately 35 individuals inside the gym at the time of the incident.
Did this happen in the gym?
Yes, ma'am.
What were the moments right after the shooting? Walk me through how quickly the school administrators were able to get these kids on code red lockdown.
Absolutely. In a situation like this, we were able to alert our school community to an immediate code red lockdown. That alert notifies the school campus community as well as alerting all the district personnel. Law enforcement was responding in less than minutes, making sure that they were present on the scene. Of course, we're fortunate to have school resource officers at each of our school campuses, and so our resource officer assigned to Hendersonville Middle School was able to respond to that site immediately, help to assist with the detaining of the individual and then securing that space. Our law enforcement partners from the city and from the county, as well as from our municipalities, were all responding in that situation, and our district administration responded to help coordinate that effort.
So the resource officers are the ones that kind of were first on the scene in the gym. Was there any kind of struggle there? Did the student put up any kind of fight, or was it?
No, sir. After the shot was fired, the individual then put his hands on his head and was taken into custody at that time.
Does this appear like it was a targeted attack? And can you also tell us the extent of the injuries?
Again, at that point, we are going through witness statements from every single student and faculty member that was inside that gym, as well as others, to determine just what the intent was of that student.
Have you all had a chance to take a look at the social media accounts of the suspect involved?
I have not. Investigators have done that. I have not personally looked at those social media accounts, but all that is being looked at currently.
Well, to that, do you have some sort of motive at all for the shooting this victim?
No, sir, not at this time. We don't know what the intent was at the present time.
What does the school district do to prepare potential teachers as well as students for, God forbid, a situation that happens?
As I mentioned, this is the type of situation that you never want to have to prepare for, but our protocols in place for training for any type of crisis response, all the way up to an active assailant event. And so we have regular training protocols that are in place, that have been in place for some time, to make sure that our staff and our students and our school communities know how to respond in these type of situations. I think a critical message that I would share at this time, though, is as we think about our families and our students who have left the school community, we want to reinforce that the school system is here to provide support for our students and for our community families as they might need it. Anytime you go through a crisis situation, you want to recognize that we all process that differently. And so it's critical that everybody understands that we're able to support our students and our school communities as they respond to that. And if should the need arise, that they reach out to our school and to our community resources so that we can care for them in that time.
And how can they do that in light of, I'm assuming that they were going home today and not coming back till Monday?
Absolutely. So we have an anonymous reporting system that allows them to reach out directly to school administrative staff that contacts us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anytime that a child has a need or a response or there's a concern for a child in our community. Additionally, our school administrators are always responsive. Even though we're closed for the holidays, we make ourselves available to our students in such a way that we might be able to provide care for them if that need arises.
Can you talk about security precautions in place? Are there metal detectors in the building, that sort of thing?
We currently don't have metal detectors in the building. We do have security cameras in some areas, but ultimately we recognize that the most significant security that we can put into place is our personal vigilance. The adults who are present in the space, students that are observing what's taking place, reporting concerns to adults, and staff members being where they need to be, and that was certainly the case in this instance. Staff members being able to respond immediately to that incident allowed this to not be an event that occurred greater than it did.
And this was before classes started, right?
Yes, sir, it was. Approximately 7:45.
To piggyback on the question about metal detectors, this is the longest time we've seen the absence of school shootings since this pandemic began. Is that a precaution you guys are considering or looking into as students come back to the classroom?
I think what we do all the time is we evaluate our safety protocols, whether it be an event or a response or a debrief related to that, but also our priorities for school safety. Again, we want to create schools. We want them to be safe places where our kids are cared for and served, but we'll evaluate all of our protocols as we do anytime an event occurs.
And a question about the firearm. Was this a firearm that could create potentially a fatal have a potentially fatal reaction, or was it?
Well, sure. Any firearm could be potentially fatal, and this was certainly one of those. So it was. There are rumors I know on social media and other that it wasn't a real firearm, but it was in fact a real firearm. And obviously, any firearm has the potential to be deadly in the wrong hands. And to piggyback on what the superintendent was saying, you mentioned the pandemic, and a lot of preparation, obviously, and a lot of planning is going into keeping our students and our faculty and our officers safe during the pandemic, but that doesn't stop us from continually train and be prepared for an event such as this. So it's important that we remember what's going on in the pandemic, but we also can't forget about school safety in all aspects. And I think that they've done a pretty good job here, obviously a very good job here, to prevent a further tragedy.
What charges could this student be facing, and will they be up for expulsion?
Again, the charges will depend on the outcome of the investigation, and that is continuing. Again, they are doing interviews currently, and when we've already been in consultation with the district attorney's office, and the proper charges will come about once we realize or find out the actual what led up to the shooting, what the motive was, whether it was intentional, and that type of thing.
I know it's still early in the investigation, but minimal detail. It was very early in the morning when this incident happened. Do we know if this student rode the bus to school or walked into the school or was dropped off by parents, or how he managed to get to school today?
That is something that we're reviewing as far as through the superintendent mentioned the videotapes. We're looking at security video to ascertain all that information at this time.
Did the firearm come in? Was it on the person, on the boy's person, or in a backpack? Do you know, under a coat? How was it concealed?
That's something, again, part of the ongoing investigation that we're looking into.
Can you describe, as a juvenile, what are the penalty options that this juvenile might face?
Well, juveniles can be charged with anything that an adult is charged with. So we are looking at the same thing, obviously, that anybody could be charged with as far as bringing a firearm onto campus and using that firearm.
What are the penalties then?
It all depends on what the charge is, and there are a wide array of charges that could be charged based on the facts that we just don't have right now.
Hopefully this has given everybody a pretty good update. Maybe time for one more question.
Do we know for sure where the victim was shot? Was it in the leg?
At this time, we're not going to release that information again, pending the results of the investigation. We don't want to release a whole lot on the victim until we get that information from the hospital. We're not in a position to release medical information, as you all can certainly understand, but as soon as we get additional information from the hospital, they can confirm her condition, location of the wound, that type of thing.
And can you confirm that the student would be up for expulsion with this?
What I can confirm, similar to what you heard the chief say, is anytime we have a disciplinary incident on campus of this magnitude or of any kind, we apply the Student Code of Conduct, board policy, and state policy. And so those determinations would be the result of our investigation as well. Yeah,
I know you guys don't want to say too much about the victim, but can you confirm that this isn't a life-threatening injury, or are you guys not going far enough to say that?
The hospital has released to our investigative captain that she is currently in stable condition.
Okay.
So I can report that amount, that much anyway, coming from the hospital.
And any other additional updates we will be sharing with the media and any future communications, but this is all the information we have available to share right now.
I just have one question, if that's okay. As a superintendent whose job is to take care of a bunch of schools at one time, what goes through your mind when a school shooting like this happens?
I think every member of our community, whether they are educators or parents or students, recognizes that it's not a worry that we want to have. And what we want to do is, again, remind everybody that school safety is everybody's job. It's everybody's opportunity to serve and support school communities, to remind our students and our families that we contribute to that on a daily basis. And so again, our effort is about gratitude today. It's about thankfulness and the responsiveness of the men and women who serve in our community, of our school administrators, of our students and their families in responding to today's event. And so we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being